When a fender bender throws exhausted grad student Aaliyah into the orbit of tech billionaire Damian Cross, neither expects their worlds to collide so completely. But when love threatens legacy, how far will they go to protect it? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun beat down on Aaliyah Trent as she rushed across the Whole Foods parking lot. Her dark curls were pulled back in a messy bun, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. At 27, she should have been full of energy, but working 2 jobs while finishing her psychology degree had left her constantly exhausted. Come on, she muttered, fumbling with her keys. She was already late for her shift at the community clinic, and her boss had warned her about tardiness. One more strike and she could lose the job she desperately needed to pay for school. She tossed her grocery bag onto the passenger seat of her beat-up sedan and slid behind the wheel. The car sputtered to life, protesting with a grinding noise that she'd been ignoring for weeks. No time to worry about that now. Aaliyah glanced at her watch. 15 minutes to get across town. She put the car in reverse and backed out quickly, her mind already on the patients she'd see today. Crunch! The sound of metal hitting metal made her stomach drop. She slammed on the brakes and closed her eyes for a moment. No, she whispered. Not today. She took a deep breath and stepped out of her car. Behind her, a sleek black luxury SUV with tinted windows gleamed in the sunlight. Her beat-up sedan had left an ugly dent in its front bumper, the pristine black paint now scraped away to reveal the metal underneath. Perfect, she muttered. Just perfect. As if on cue, the SUV's door opened. A tall man in an immaculate charcoal suit stepped out, his face unreadable behind designer sunglasses. Even before he removed them, Aaliyah could tell he was someone important, someone with money and power. 2 men in dark suits appeared seemingly from nowhere, positioning themselves protectively near the man. Security team, of course. "Sir, are you all right?" one of them asked. The man ignored him, surveying the damage with cool detachment. He removed his sunglasses, revealing intense dark eyes that locked onto Aaliyah. "Do you know what you've done?" he asked, his voice surprisingly soft. Aaliyah felt her heart race, but she stood her ground. She'd faced worse than an angry rich man in her life. "It was an accident," she said firmly, stepping forward. She was tired, frustrated, and completely unafraid. "And I'm not running, so either call your insurance or let me go to work." One of the security men moved forward, but the man in the suit raised his hand, stopping him. For a moment, there was silence. Then, unexpectedly, his lips curved into a smile. "What's your name?" he asked. Aaliyah Trent. "Damian Cross," he replied, extending his hand. The name meant nothing to her, but the security men exchanged glances. Whoever this man was, he expected her to recognize him. "Look, Mr. Cross," she said, ignoring his outstretched hand. "I'm really sorry about your car. I'll give you my insurance information, but I'm already late for work." "Where do you work?" "The West Side Community Clinic. I'm a counselor's assistant." Damian Cross nodded, studying her with those intense eyes. "Go to work, Ms. Trent. We'll handle this differently." "What does that mean?" Aaliyah asked, suddenly suspicious. "It means go to work. I'll be in touch." "But the damage?" "Will be taken care of." He handed her a business card. "My personal number. Call me when you're free." One of the security men started to protest, but Damian silenced him with a look. Aaliyah hesitated, but the clock was ticking. "Fine, I'll call you later." As she got back into her car, she caught his reflection in her rearview mirror. Damian Cross was watching her drive away with an expression she couldn't quite read. It wasn't anger or annoyance. It was interest. The West Side Community Clinic was already bustling when Aaliyah rushed through the doors 5 minutes late. "Sorry, Marie," she called to the receptionist. "Car trouble." Marie, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, shook her head. "Dr. Patel's waiting for you. And don't forget, we have group therapy at 11. Aaliyah hurried to her small desk, dropping her bag and quickly logging into the computer. The business card Damian Cross had given her fell onto her keyboard. She picked it up, running her thumb over the embossed letters. Damian Cross, CEO, Horizon Technologies. Now she understood the security team and the expensive car. Horizon Technologies was one of the biggest tech companies in the country. She'd read about them in the news, something about revolutionary AI development. "Aaliyah?" Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway, a file in her hand. "Everything okay?" "Yes, sorry. Just a small accident this morning." "Anyone hurt?" "Just a rich man's ego and his car's bumper." Dr. Patel smiled. "Well, I need you to call Mrs. Johnson about rescheduling her appointment. and the files for the new patients need to be updated in the system. On it, Aaliyah said, tucking the business card into her pocket. She'd worry about Damien Cross later. Later came sooner than expected. At lunchtime, Aaliyah was unwrapping her sandwich when Marie appeared at her desk. "There's someone here to see you," she said, her eyes wide. "In the lobby." "For me? Who is it?" "He says his name is Damien Cross." Marie leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Aaliyah, there's a limousine parked outside, and he's wearing a suit that probably costs more than I make in a month." Aaliyah's sandwich remained forgotten on her desk as she walked to the lobby. Sure enough, Damien Cross stood by the reception desk, looking completely out of place among the worn chairs and outdated magazines. "Mr. Cross," she said, approaching him cautiously, "what are you doing here?" "I told you I'd be in touch." He smiled, that same unexpected smile from earlier. "Do you have time for lunch? I'm on my break, but I brought food. Cancel it, I know a place nearby." Aaliyah crossed her arms. "I don't even know you. That's the point of lunch. To change that." She studied him for a moment. There was something challenging in his eyes, as if he wasn't used to people saying no to him. "Why would the CEO of Horizon Technologies want to have lunch with me?" A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "You looked me up. I read the business card you gave me. Smart and observant." He nodded approvingly. "So lunch? Why? Because you crashed into my car and didn't immediately offer to wash my feet in apology?" His tone was light, almost teasing. "It was refreshing. So this is about novelty. Poor girl stands up to rich man film at 11. Damien laughed, a genuine sound that drew glances from around the waiting room. "Maybe. Or maybe I just want to make sure you're not going to sue me for emotional distress or something. I crashed into you, remember? Details." He glanced at his watch. "Your break won't last forever. Are you coming?" Against her better judgment, Aaliyah found herself nodding. "Let me grab my purse." The restaurant was small but elegant. Tucked away on a side street, Aaliyah had passed 100 times without noticing. The maitre d' greeted Damien by name and led them to a secluded table by the window. "Mr. Cross, your usual table." Damien pulled out Aaliyah's chair for her, a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and strangely genuine. "You come here often?" she asked as he sat across from her. "When I want to avoid being recognized." He opened the menu. "The salmon is excellent, but I recommend the pasta. I can't believe I'm having lunch with the CEO of Horizon Technologies because I dented his car. Is that so hard to believe?" "Yes," she said bluntly. "Men like you don't have lunch with women like me." His eyes met hers over the menu. "Men like me? Rich, powerful, probably featured in Forbes or something. You say that like it's a character flaw, isn't it?" She raised an eyebrow. "I work at a community clinic where people can't afford basic health care, while you probably have a doctor on call at your office." Rather than being offended, Damien seemed intrigued. "Tell me about your work." "Why?" "Because I'm asking. Because I'm curious." The waiter appeared, saving Aaliyah from responding immediately. Damien ordered for both of them with a confidence that should have annoyed her but somehow didn't. "I'm studying psychology," she said when the waiter left. "I work at the clinic part-time, and I waitress on weekends to pay for school." "That's a lot." "That's life," she shrugged. "Not everyone has a trust fund." "What makes you think I had a trust fund?" "Am I wrong?" Damien's lips quirked. "No. See, I'm good at reading people. What else do you read about me?" Aaliyah took a sip of water, studying him over the rim of her glass. "You're used to being in charge. You don't like surprises. You have people who handle the messy parts of life for you. And yet here I am handling a fender bender personally. Which brings me back to why. Why track me down? Why lunch? Why care about someone who dented your probably very expensive car?" The waiter brought their food, interrupting again. When he left, Damien leaned forward slightly. "Because you weren't afraid of me," he said simply. "You didn't know who I was, and you didn't care. Do you know how rare that is in my world? So I'm a novelty. You're interesting. There's a difference." Aaliyah twirled pasta around her fork, considering his words. "What happens after lunch? You go back to your tower, and I go back to my real life?" "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you'd have coffee with me tomorrow." She nearly choked on her pasta. "Are you asking me on a date?" "I'm asking you for coffee." "Why?" "You ask that a lot. I like to understand people's motivations." Damien smiled. "The psychology student at work. Fine. I find you interesting, and my life doesn't have enough interesting people in it. Satisfied?" "Not really. Have coffee with me anyway." Aaliyah set down her fork. "I can't figure you out, Mr. Cross." Damien, you could be anywhere. With anyone. Why me? Maybe I'm tired of anywhere and anyone. His eyes held hers. Maybe I want something real for a change. The intensity of his gaze made her look away. I have to get back to work. You haven't answered about coffee. No, she said firmly. Thank you for lunch, but no coffee. Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe, or surprise at being refused. The car repair. Send me the bill. I'll figure it out. That's not necessary. It is to me. She stood up. Thank you for lunch, Damien. He rose as well, towering over her. At least let me drive you back. I can walk. It's starting to rain. Aaliyah glanced out the window. Sure enough, dark clouds had gathered, and raindrops were beginning to spatter against the glass. Fine, she conceded, but just back to work. The inside of Damien's limousine smelled of leather and something woodsy, his cologne, perhaps. They sat in silence as the driver navigated the lunchtime traffic. Why did you really say no to coffee? Damien asked suddenly. Aaliyah looked at him. Because men like you don't just want coffee with women like me without an agenda. You're very suspicious. I'm very realistic. The limousine stopped at a red light. Rain streaked down the windows, blurring the outside world. What if I told you my only agenda is getting to know you better? Damien asked. I'd say you have plenty of ways to meet women who'd be more suitable companions. Suitable? He repeated the word with distaste. Do you know how many suitable women I meet? Women who laugh at jokes that aren't funny? Who agree with everything I say? Who care more about my bank account than anything else? Poor little rich boy, Aaliyah said, but there was no bite to her words. Mock all you want, but it's lonely at the top, Aaliyah. The use of her name sent an unexpected shiver through her. Is that supposed to make me feel sorry for you? No. It's supposed to make you understand why someone who crashes into my car and then stands her ground is a breath of fresh air. The limousine pulled up in front of the clinic. Thank you for lunch, Aaliyah said, reaching for the door handle. Have coffee with me, Damien said again. Just once. If you still think I have an agenda, you never have to see me again. Aaliyah paused, her hand on the door. Why is this so important to you? I don't know, he admitted, and the honesty in his voice surprised her. But it is, she sighed. One coffee, tomorrow after my shift, 4 o'clock at the Library Cafe on 5th Street. The smile that spread across his face was genuine, transforming his features from merely handsome to something almost boyish. I'll be there. You did what? Aaliyah's best friend Tasha nearly shouted over the phone that night. Aaliyah balanced the phone between her ear and shoulder as she sorted laundry in her small apartment. I agreed to have coffee with him. Once. With Damien Cross. The Damien Cross. Tech genius. Billionaire. Most eligible bachelor in the city. Damien Cross. You're exaggerating. Girl, I am not. He was literally on the cover of Business Weekly last month. The man revolutionizing AI. Aaliyah frowned. How do you know all this? Because unlike you, I don't live under a rock. I follow the news, and that man is news. He's just a guy whose car I hit. Tasha laughed. Only you would reduce Damien Cross to just a guy. Do you realize what this means? He's interested in you. He's curious about me. There's a difference. Semantics. The point is, one of the richest men in the city asked you out, and you're acting like it's no big deal. Because it isn't. Aaliyah tossed a shirt into the washer. We're having coffee once, then we go our separate ways. Sure. I'm serious, Tash. Men like him don't end up with women like me. And what kind of woman are you? The kind with student loans and 2 jobs. The kind who lives in a 1-bedroom apartment with water damage in the bathroom ceiling. The kind whose idea of splurging is ordering takeout. You're also smart, beautiful, and take no crap from anyone. Maybe that's exactly what he needs. Aaliyah sighed. It's just coffee. Uh-huh. Wear that blue top I got you for your birthday. I'm not dressing up for him. Then dress up for yourself. Show him exactly what he's dealing with. After hanging up, Aaliyah sat on the edge of her bed, thinking about Damien Cross. There had been something in his eyes when he looked at her, something beyond curiosity or amusement, something that made her heart beat a little faster despite her best efforts. It's just coffee, she repeated to herself, nothing more. The Library Cafe was Aaliyah's favorite place to study. Tucked into the back of the old public library, it was quiet, cozy, and served the best chai lattes in the city. She deliberately arrived 15 minutes early, claiming her usual corner table with a view of the bookshelves. She'd compromised on her outfit, not the blue top Tasha had suggested, but a simple sundress that made her feel confident. Her hair was down, natural curls framing her face. At exactly 4 o'clock, Damien Cross walked through the door. He'd traded his business suit for dark jeans and a casual button-down shirt, but he still drew every eye in the cafe. He spotted her immediately and made his way to her table. "You came," she said, unable to hide her surprise. "I said I would." He sat down across from her. "This is not what I expected." "What did you expect? Something more pretentious, I suppose." "This is nice. It's quiet, good for studying." A server approached, and Damien ordered a black coffee. Aaliyah asked for her usual chai latte. "So," he said when they were alone again, "tell me about your psychology studies. Why do you want to know?" "There you go with the why again." He smiled. "Because I'm interested. Because it matters to you. Because understanding people is fascinating." Aaliyah studied him for a moment, then decided to take him at his word. "I'm specializing in trauma recovery. I want to work with people who've experienced serious life disruptions, survivors of abuse, accidents, violence. Heavy stuff. Important stuff," she corrected. "Trauma changes people at a fundamental level, but with the right help, they can not just recover but grow." "You speak from experience?" His question was gentle, not prying. She nodded slightly. "My mother died when I was 14. Car accident. My father, he didn't handle it well. I practically raised my younger brother while dealing with my own grief. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, but it showed me how easy it is to get lost in pain, and how important it is to have someone guide you back." Damien's eyes never left her face. "You're remarkable, Aaliyah Trent." She felt a blush warm her cheeks. "I'm just doing what matters to me." "Exactly. That's what makes you remarkable." He sipped his coffee. "Most people chase what matters to others. Money, status, power. Like you." Instead of being offended, he laughed. "Touché. But I built Horizon because I wanted to create something that would change the world. The money and power were side effects." "And do you? Change the world?" "We're trying. Our AI systems are being used in hospitals to detect diseases earlier than human doctors can. They're helping predict weather patterns, to warn about natural disasters. They're making education more accessible in developing countries." There was passion in his voice that surprised her. This wasn't the cold, calculating CEO she had imagined. "You really care about this stuff," she observed. "Of course I do. Why else would I do it? For the money, the power, the cover of Business Weekly?" He grimaced. "I hate those photo shoots. My PR team insists." Despite herself, Aaliyah smiled. "Poor billionaire, forced to be on magazine covers. You really don't cut me any slack, do you?" "Should I?" "No." His answer was immediate. "It's refreshing." They talked for hours, long after their drinks were empty. Aaliyah told him about her brother, now in college studying engineering. Damien shared stories about growing up with parents who expected perfection. She described her dream of opening a trauma recovery center someday. He admitted that despite his success, he sometimes wondered if he was making the right choices. The cafe was closing when they finally noticed the time. "I can't believe it's been 3 hours, Aaliyah said, gathering her bag. "Time flies," Damien agreed, standing. "Can I drive you home?" "No, I have my car, but thank you." They walked outside together. The evening was warm, the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "I enjoyed this, Aaliyah," Damien said quietly. "More than I expected to." "Me too," she admitted. "Would it be pushing my luck to ask to see you again?" She hesitated. "This was supposed to be a one-time thing." "Says who?" "Says the reality of our very different lives." "What if I don't care about that?" Aaliyah looked up at him. "You should. Your world and mine don't mix, Damien." "They're mixing right now." She shook her head. "This isn't real life. This is an interlude." "It felt pretty real to me." He stepped closer. "Have dinner with me on Friday." "I work Friday nights." "The restaurant job." "Saturday then." She should say no. She knew she should. But the words that came out were, "Maybe." His smile was worth the momentary weakness. "I'll take that as a yes. You're very sure of yourself. Only about things that matter." He reached out, almost touching her face, then seemed to think better of it. "Good night, Aaliyah Trent." "Good night, Damien Cross." As she walked to her car, she could feel his eyes on her back. This was dangerous territory. Men like Damien Cross didn't belong in her world, and she didn't belong in his. This couldn't go anywhere. So why was her heart racing at the thought of seeing him again? In his penthouse office, Damien stared out at the city lights, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. His mind kept returning to Aaliyah Trent, her smile, her directness, the way she challenged him. "Sir?" His assistant, Margaret, appeared in the doorway. "The board members are asking about the Singapore deal. They need your decision by morning." "Tell them I'll have it tomorrow," he said, not turning around. "And Mr. Lawson called again about the charity gala. He wants to confirm you'll be bringing a guest." Damien thought of Aliyah in the library cafe, passionate about her work, unimpressed by his status. Tell him, I might be. Margaret raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. In 10 years, she'd never known him to be uncertain about social engagements. Will that be all, sir? Yes. Thank you, Margaret. When she left, Damien returned to the window. Somewhere in this city, Aliyah Trent was going about her evening, probably studying or preparing for work tomorrow. The thought made him smile. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Aliyah. Saturday at 7. Nothing fancy. He typed back immediately. I'll pick you up. Address? Her reply came a minute later with an address in a modest neighborhood across town. Damien saved the contact and slipped the phone back into his pocket. For the first time in years, he felt something he'd almost forgotten. Anticipation. Genuine, unfiltered anticipation. He had 4 days until Saturday. 4 days to figure out how to show Aliyah Trent that sometimes collisions could lead to unexpected destinations. And he intended to make every minute count. Saturday evening arrived faster than Aliyah expected. Between her shifts at the clinic, a double at the restaurant, and a psychology paper due Monday, she'd barely had time to think about her upcoming dinner with Damien Cross. But as 7 o'clock approached, nervous energy buzzed through her veins. She'd told him nothing fancy, hoping to steer him away from the kind of upscale restaurant where she'd feel out of place. Still, she found herself trying on 3 different outfits before settling on a simple burgundy dress that Tasha had insisted she buy on sale last year. It's not a date, she told her reflection firmly. It's just dinner. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. Pictures or it didn't happen. Aliyah smiled and typed back, it hasn't happened yet, and no pictures. A car horn sounded outside. She expected the limousine from before, but instead saw a sleek silver sports car parked at the curb. Damien leaned against it, dressed in dark jeans and a charcoal button-down shirt, no tie. Casual, but still effortlessly elegant. Her apartment building was nothing special, a worn brick structure in a neighborhood that was neither dangerous nor desirable. She wondered what Damien thought, seeing where she lived. She grabbed her purse and headed downstairs, suddenly self-conscious. When she stepped outside, Damien straightened, his eyes taking her in with unmistakable appreciation. You look beautiful, he said simply. Thanks. She glanced at the car. No limo tonight? You said nothing fancy. He smiled. I drive this one myself. You actually drive? I assumed you had people for that. I do, but some things I prefer to handle personally. He opened the passenger door for her. Shall we? The interior of the car smelled of new leather and his now familiar cologne. As Damien slid into the driver's seat, Aliyah noticed how at ease he seemed, more relaxed than in his business attire. So, where are we going? She asked as he pulled away from the curb. I found a place I think you'll like. Small Italian restaurant, owned by the same family for 3 generations. Great food, no pretense. Sounds perfect. They drove through the city, conversation flowing surprisingly easily between them. Damien asked about her week, listening attentively as she described a breakthrough with one of Dr. Patel's patients. You really care about these people, he observed. Of course I do. That's the whole point. Not for everyone. Some therapists just see clients as problems to solve. Those aren't real therapists then, Aliyah said firmly. Connection is essential to healing. Damien glanced at her, something warm in his eyes. You're going to change lives, Aliyah Trent. The sincerity in his voice made her heart flutter unexpectedly. The restaurant was exactly as Damien had described. Small, warm, with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. The owner, an older Italian man named Marco, greeted Damien like an old friend. Mr. Cross, so good to see you again, and with such beautiful company. This is Aliyah, Damien said, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. Aliyah, this is Marco. His carbonara is the best in the city. You flatter an old man. Marco laughed, leading them to a corner table. But he is right, he added with a wink to Aliyah. When they were seated, Aliyah looked around with approval. This is perfect. How did you find it? My mother loved this place, Damien said, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. She brought me here for my 12th birthday. Said real food was made with love, not prestige. Your mother sounds wise. She was. His expression softened. She died when I was in college. Cancer. I'm sorry, Aliyah said, reaching across the table to touch his hand briefly. That's something we have in common then. Losing our mothers too young. Damien nodded, turning his hand to catch hers before she could pull away. It changes you. Yes, she agreed softly, It does. Their eyes held for a moment, a silent understanding passing between them. Then Marco returned with wine and menus, breaking the spell. They ordered carbonara for Damien, lasagna for Aaliyah, and settled into comfortable conversation. He told her about his early days building Horizon Technologies, the sleepless nights coding in his apartment, the first investor who took a chance on him. "You make it sound like you built it from nothing," Aaliyah said skeptically. "But you mentioned a trust fund." Damien smiled ruefully. "Fair point. I had advantages, good education, financial safety net. But the company itself, the vision for it, that came from me. My father wanted me to join his law firm. He thought tech was a phase I'd outgrow. And now? Now he tells everyone he always believed in me." Damien rolled his eyes. "Funny how success changes people's memories. Does that bother you?" "Sometimes." He shrugged. "But I didn't build Horizon for him. I built it because I saw technology that could help people, make their lives better. And has it? Made lives better. Some. Not enough yet." There was a determined glint in his eye. "But we're working on it. Our new health initiative is launching next month. AI diagnostic tools for underserved communities." "Really?" Aaliyah leaned forward, genuinely interested. "How does that work?" Damien's face lit up as he explained the project. Portable devices with advanced AI that could diagnose common illnesses, particularly useful in areas without enough doctors. His passion was evident, his hands gesturing animatedly as he spoke. "Sorry," he said, stopping himself mid-sentence. "I tend to get carried away talking about work." "Don't apologize," Aaliyah said. "It's nice to see someone care so much about what they do. What about you? Tell me more about this trauma center you want to open someday." Aaliyah hesitated, then found herself sharing her dream, a place where trauma survivors could find holistic healing, not just therapy, but community, skill building, creative outlets. "Most recovery happens between sessions," she explained. "People need tools for daily life, not just an hour a week in an office." "You've thought this through for years, but it's just a dream for now. The kind of center I envision would cost millions to start." "Money can be found," Damien said casually. "The vision is the hard part. You already have that." Before Aaliyah could respond, their food arrived, steaming and fragrant. The first bite confirmed Marco's boast. It was delicious. "Oh my God," she sighed. "This is amazing." Damien smiled, watching her enjoyment with obvious pleasure. "Told you." They ate, conversation flowing between bites. Aaliyah told him about her brother Jason, now studying engineering at State University on scholarship. Damien shared stories about his younger sister Emma, who worked as an environmental lawyer in California. "She's the real crusader in the family," he said with obvious pride. "Takes corporations to court for pollution violations, even threatened to sue me once if Horizon didn't improve our carbon footprint." "Did you?" "Of course. Never cross Emma when she's on a mission. Besides, she was right." By the time they finished their meal, Aaliyah felt more relaxed than she had in months. There was something about Damien that made her feel both seen and accepted, a rare combination. Marco brought them tiramisu to share, waving away Damien's attempt to decline. "For the beautiful couple," he insisted. "On the house." "We're not." Aaliyah started to correct him, but Marco was already bustling away. Damien grinned. "No use arguing with Marco. He's a romantic." "Apparently." "Is it so bad? Being seen as a couple?" Aaliyah met his eyes. "We're from different worlds, Damien." "You keep saying that. I'm not sure I believe in different worlds anymore." "That's because you've never had to worry about making rent or choosing between textbooks and groceries." "Fair enough." He didn't try to deny it. "But people can bridge worlds, Aaliyah. It happens all the time, and sometimes they fall into the gap between them." Damien leaned forward. "Is that what you're afraid of? Falling?" The question hit too close to home. Aaliyah looked down at the dessert, taking a bite to avoid answering immediately. "I'm just being realistic," she said finally. "This is nice, dinner, conversation, but let's not pretend it's more than it is." "And what is it, exactly?" "A temporary intersection of lives that normally wouldn't cross." Damien studied her for a long moment. "You've already decided how this story ends, haven't you? Rich CEO has a brief diversion with ordinary girl, then returns to his real life. It's practically a movie trope. Maybe I don't like that ending." "It's not about liking it, it's about recognizing reality." Damien's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, and silenced it. A moment later, it buzzed again. "You should get that," Aaliyah said. "Might be important." "It can wait." But the phone kept buzzing. With an apologetic smile, Damien finally checked it. His expression hardened. "I'm sorry," he said. "There's a situation at work I need to handle. On Saturday night, the tech world doesn't respect weekends." He signaled for the check. "I'll drive you home first." "No need. I can call a car." "Aaliyah, really, it's fine." She smiled to show she meant it. "Go handle your crisis. I'll get home safely." He seemed torn but nodded. "At least let me pay for your ride." "I can manage a car service, Damien. I'm not destitute." After a brief argument that Aaliyah won, Damien paid the bill and walked her outside. The night air was cool, stars barely visible through the city lights. "I'm sorry about this," he said again. "Don't be, it's your job. Can I call you tomorrow?" Aaliyah hesitated. Despite her words about different worlds, she'd enjoyed the evening more than she wanted to admit. "Yes," she said finally. "You can call me." Damien's smile was immediate and genuine. He stepped closer, one hand gently touching her cheek. "Thank you for tonight." For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. Part of her hoped he would. Instead, he simply held her gaze, thumb brushing her cheekbone lightly. "Good night, Aaliyah." "Good night, Damien." She watched as he drove away, taillights disappearing around a corner. Then she opened her rideshare app and requested a car, trying to ignore the lingering warmth of his touch on her skin. The next morning, Aaliyah woke to a text from Damien. "Coffee at your library cafe? 2 p.m.? She smiled despite herself and texted back, "Okay." She spent the morning finishing her psychology paper, but found her mind wandering to Damien more often than she'd like to admit. His passion for his work, the way he listened when she spoke, the almost touch of his lips last night. "Get it together, Aaliyah," she muttered to herself. "This isn't going anywhere." But at 1:45, she was already at the cafe, ordering her usual chai latte and claiming her favorite corner table. Damien arrived precisely at 2, carrying a small gift bag. "For you," he said, placing it on the table as he sat down. "You didn't need to bring me anything." "I wanted to. Open it." Inside the bag was a book, Trauma and Recovery, by Judith Herman. Not a new copy, but a well-read one with notes in the margins. "This was my copy in college," Damien explained. "After what you said about trauma work, I thought you might find it interesting." Herman was groundbreaking in understanding complex trauma. Aaliyah ran her fingers over the cover, genuinely touched. "You studied psychology?" "Minor in college. I was pre-law before I switched to computer science. My father's influence." "These notes?" She flipped through pages, filled with Damien's precise handwriting. "You were really engaged with this material." "It spoke to me. After my mother died," he shrugged. "I wanted to understand grief, how people heal." "Thank you," Aaliyah said softly. "This means a lot." "You're welcome." Over coffee, Damien explained last night's crisis, a security breach in one of Horizon's servers that needed his immediate attention. "All fixed now, for the moment. Tech is always one step forward, 2 steps back sometimes." "Is that why you look tired?" she asked, noticing the shadows under his eyes. "Was up most of the night. Worth it, though." They fell into easy conversation again, time slipping by unnoticed. When Aaliyah mentioned needing to finish a paper, Damien insisted on leaving, but not before making plans to see her again on Tuesday. "Just lunch," he said. "I promised to keep my work emergencies under control." Tuesday turned into Thursday, which became Saturday again. Before Aaliyah knew it, 3 weeks had passed, and seeing Damien had become a regular part of her life. Coffee between her classes, lunch near the clinic, dinner at small out-of-the-way restaurants where he wouldn't be recognized. He never pushed for more, never pressured her to acknowledge what was growing between them. But with each meeting, each conversation, each shared laugh, Aaliyah found it harder to maintain the walls she'd built. "You're falling for him," Tasha accused one evening as they shared takeout in Aaliyah's apartment. "I'm not." "Girl, please. You light up every time your phone buzzes. You've seen him how many times now? We're just friends." "Friends who look at each other like that? I don't think so." Aaliyah pushed her food around with her fork. "It doesn't matter anyway. It can't go anywhere." "Why not?" "You know why not. He's Damien Cross, I'm me." Tasha rolled her eyes. "And that's a problem because eventually he'll realize we don't fit. His board members, his social circle, they'd never accept someone like me." "Has he introduced you to any of them?" "No, but has he ever made you feel less than?" "No, of course not." "Then maybe the only one who thinks you don't fit is you." The word stayed with Aaliyah long after Tasha left. Was she the one creating barriers that didn't exist? Or was she simply being realistic about a world she'd never been part of? Her phone buzzed with a text from Damien. "Busy tomorrow night?" She hesitated, then typed, "Working at the restaurant until 10. His reply came immediately, "Can I pick you up after? There's something I want to show you." Curiosity won out over caution. "Okay, but I'll be tired. I promise it's worth it." The restaurant was busy for a Sunday night, keeping Aaliyah on her feet for her entire shift. By 10, her back ached, and her smile felt forced. She changed out of her waitress uniform in the employee bathroom, pulling on jeans and a sweater, too tired to care much about her appearance. Outside, Damien waited by his car. Despite her exhaustion, Aaliyah felt a flutter in her stomach at the sight of him. "Rough shift?" he asked, opening the door for her. "The worst. Sunday night church crowd. They pray before eating and then tip like the devil." Damien laughed. "Want a rain check? We can do this another time." "No, I'm curious now. Where are we going?" "It's a surprise." They drove through the city, eventually turning onto a road that led up into the hills overlooking the skyline. Damien pulled into a gated driveway, punched a code into a keypad, and continued up a winding path to a modern house with walls of glass reflecting the moonlight. "Is this your place?" Aaliyah asked, surprised. They'd never been to his home before. "One of them. I have an apartment downtown for work nights, but this is where I come to think." The house was stunning, sleek and modern, but somehow warm. Windows stretched from floor to ceiling, offering a panoramic view of the city below. The interior was minimalist but comfortable, with plush couches and warm lighting. "It's beautiful," Aaliyah said honestly. "Thank you, but this isn't what I wanted to show you." He held out his hand. "Come on." He led her through the house to a door at the back, which opened onto a sweeping deck. There, a telescope was set up, pointing at the night sky. "Stargazing?" Aaliyah asked, surprised. "My secret hobby." Damien smiled almost sheepishly. "I've loved astronomy since I was a kid. My mother bought me my first telescope when I was 10. He adjusted the eyepiece and stepped back. "Take a look." Aaliyah leaned forward, peering through the telescope. A bright object filled the view, ringed with halos of color. "Saturn," Damien said. "You can see the rings clearly tonight." "It's amazing," she breathed, genuinely awed by the sight. "I've never seen it like this before. The universe makes our problems seem small, doesn't it? All our worries about what fits and what doesn't." Aaliyah glanced at him, recognizing the gentle challenge in his words. He'd heard her concerns, understood her hesitation. "It's not that simple, Damien." "It could be." He moved beside her, their shoulders touching. "If we let it." The night air was cool, the city lights below them like earthbound stars. Aaliyah felt suddenly, acutely aware of him. His warmth, his scent, the intensity in his eyes when he looked at her. "What are we doing here, Damien, really?" "I'm showing you Saturn," he said lightly, but his eyes held hers. "And maybe reminding both of us that some things are worth crossing boundaries for. Like planetary boundaries. Like the ones we put between ourselves and what we want." The directness of his gaze made her heart race. "And what do you want?" Instead of answering with words, Damien leaned forward slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. His lips met hers, gentle at first, then more insistent as she responded. His hand came up to cup her face, drawing her closer. The kiss was everything Aaliyah had tried not to imagine. Tender yet passionate, careful yet demanding. When they finally broke apart, she felt dizzy, clinging to his shirt for balance. "That," Damien said softly, "is what I want. You, Aaliyah, I want you." The simple declaration hung in the air between them. Part of her wanted to run, to protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak when reality intruded on this moment. But a stronger part wanted to stay, to see where this impossible connection might lead. "I'm scared," she admitted, the words barely audible. "Of what?" "Of believing this could work, of letting myself hope." Damien stroked her cheek gently. "Some risks are worth taking." He kissed her again, and this time Aaliyah let herself fall into it completely, wrapping her arms around his neck, pressing herself against him. His hands traveled down her back, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. When they separated, both breathing heavily, Damien rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me tonight." The invitation was clear, tempting, but Aaliyah shook her head. "Not yet. This is all happening so fast." To her relief, he nodded immediately. "Of course. I didn't mean to rush you. It's not that I don't want to," she clarified, her cheeks warming. "I just need time." "We have time," he assured her. "All the time we need." They spent another hour on the deck, Damien showing her different stars and planets through the telescope, their hands intertwined. The tension between them was palpable but not uncomfortable, a sweet anticipation rather than an urgent demand. When Damien finally drove her home, the goodnight kiss at her door was a promise of things to come. Aaliyah fell asleep that night with the taste of him still on her lips, her dreams filled with stars and possibilities she'd never allowed herself before. The next weeks passed in a whirlwind. Aaliyah continued her routine, classes, clinic work, restaurant shifts, but now with Damien woven into the fabric of her days. Coffee between classes, surprise lunches at the clinic, late-night phone calls when they couldn't see each other. "He's completely smitten," Dr. Patel observed one afternoon, catching Aaliyah smiling at a text from Damien. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who watches people for a living." The older woman smiled kindly. "And you? Are you happy?" "I am," Aaliyah admitted. "But also, waiting for the other shoe to drop, I guess. Because he's wealthy and you're not?" "Partly. And because good things in my life tend to come with complications." Dr. Patel considered this. "In my experience, most good things do. The question is whether they're worth the complications." "I think he might be," Aaliyah said softly, surprising herself with the admission. Their relationship deepened with each passing day. Damien began picking her up from her late shifts at the restaurant, bringing her home-cooked meals when she was studying late, remembering small details about her life and preferences that no one else ever had. For his part, Damien seemed to bloom under Aaliyah's attention. The perpetually busy CEO began making time for things beyond work, long walks, museums, even a community theater production that Aaliyah wanted to see. "My board would have a fit if they knew I was spending a Tuesday afternoon at an art exhibit instead of in meetings," he joked, as they wandered through a small gallery showcasing local artists. "Do they control your personal time too?" "They try," he squeezed her hand. "But they're fighting a losing battle lately." One night after dinner at his hillside home, Aaliyah finally stayed. Their lovemaking was both tender and passionate, a physical expression of the connection that had been building between them for weeks. Afterward, lying in his arms, watching the city lights below, she felt a sense of peace she'd never known before. "What are you thinking?" Damien asked, stroking her hair. "That I'm happier than I've been in a long time." He tightened his arm around her. "Me too. But I'm still scared." "Of what?" "Of how much this means to me already. Of how much it would hurt to lose it." Damien shifted to look into her eyes. "You're not going to lose me, Aaliyah. You say that now, but..." "No buts." He kissed her softly. "I'm not going anywhere." She wanted to believe him, wanted it more than she'd wanted anything in a long time. But the nagging voice of doubt remained, whispering that this happiness was temporary, that the real world would eventually intrude. And it did, sooner than she expected. The following week, Aaliyah was at the clinic when Marie called her to the front desk. "There's a delivery for you." A courier stood waiting with a large white box tied with a silver ribbon. "Aaliyah Trent?" he asked. "That's me. Sign here, please." Inside the box was a stunning midnight blue evening gown, simple but elegant, with a note in Damien's handwriting. "For tomorrow night. The car will pick you up at 7. D." Aaliyah frowned, pulling out her phone to call him. When he answered, she didn't bother with hello. "What's tomorrow night?" "The Horizon Foundation Gala," Damien said, sounding slightly hesitant. "I was hoping you'd come with me." "A gala? With your board members and investors? And partners, clients, and some very important people who could benefit from meeting the woman who's changing how I see the world." "Damien." Aaliyah's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and terror. "I don't belong at events like that. You belong with me," he said simply, "and I want you there, but only if you're comfortable." She thought about it for a long moment. This was what she'd been afraid of, stepping into Damien's world, where her background and bank account would be glaringly obvious to everyone. But she also thought of the man who showed her Saturn through a telescope, who read psychology books in college, who looked at her like she was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll go." "Really?" The joy in his voice was unmistakable. "Yes, but I reserve the right to hide in the bathroom if it gets overwhelming." Damien laughed. "Deal, and Aaliyah, thank you." After hanging up, she took the dress to the clinic's bathroom to try it on. It fit perfectly, the color beautiful against her skin. She stared at her reflection, hardly recognizing the elegant woman looking back at her. "Going somewhere fancy?" Dr. Patel asked when Aaliyah emerged, carefully reboxing the gown. "Apparently, I'm attending the Horizon Foundation Gala tomorrow night." Dr. Patel raised her eyebrows. "That's a big step." "Too big? Only you can answer that." The older woman smiled kindly. "But for what it's worth, I think you'll outshine everyone there." Aaliyah wished she shared that confidence. As the gala approached, her nerves grew. This wasn't just a date with Damien, this was a public declaration, a step into a spotlight she'd never sought. Tasha came over to help her get ready, bringing makeup and accessories. "You're going to knock them dead," she assured Aaliyah, curling her hair into soft waves. "Just remember, you have every right to be there." "Do I, though?" "Absolutely. Damien Cross, Mr. Billionaire Tech Genius, wants you on his arm. That's the only invitation you need." The car arrived precisely at 7, a sleek black limousine with a uniformed driver, who opened the door with practiced deference. "Miss Trent," he greeted her, "Mr. Cross will meet you at the venue." The gala was being held at the city's most prestigious hotel, its ballroom transformed with lights and flowers. Aaliyah's stomach knotted as the limousine pulled up to the entrance, where photographers clustered behind velvet ropes. "Oh, God," she muttered, "there's press." But before she could panic further, the door opened and Damien was there, handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his eyes lighting up at the sight of her. "You look incredible," he said, offering his hand to help her out of the car. "I'm terrified," she admitted quietly. "Just hold on to me. We'll face them together." Cameras flashed as they walked the short distance to the entrance, Damien's hand firm on the small of her back. She heard questions. "Mr. Cross, who's your date?" "Damien, over here." But he ignored them all, guiding her smoothly into the building. Inside, the ballroom was a glittering scene from another world. Crystal chandeliers hung from coffered ceilings, tables adorned with elaborate floral arrangements, waiters circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Beautiful people in expensive clothes clustered in conversational groups, their laughter and chatter creating a constant background hum. "Breathe," Damien whispered in her ear. "You look like you're about to face a firing squad." "That might be less intimidating," she whispered back, making him laugh. He led her to the bar, ordering champagne for both of them. "Liquid courage," he said, handing her a flute. "Though you don't need it, you're the most beautiful woman here." Before she could respond, they were approached by an older couple, the man distinguished with silver hair, the woman elegantly preserved with obvious surgical assistance. "Damien," the man said warmly, clapping him on the shoulder. "The man of the hour." "Hardly that, Richard." Damien smiled politely. "Aaliyah, this is Richard and Vivian Lawson. Richard is the chairman of our board. Richard, Vivian, this is Aaliyah Trent." "Charmed," Vivian said, her eyes coolly assessing Aaliyah from head to toe. "And what do you do, dear?" "I work at the Westside Community Clinic while finishing my psychology degree," Aaliyah said, proud of how steady her voice sounded. "How community-minded," Vivian replied, her tone making it clear this wasn't a compliment. "And how did you two meet?" "I don't recall Damien mentioning you before." "I crashed into his car," Aaliyah said honestly, earning a surprised laugh from Richard. "She backed into me in a parking lot," Damien elaborated, his hand finding hers. "Best accident of my life." Richard's eyebrows rose slightly at the gesture. "Well, this explains why you've been turning down Barbara's dinner invitations. She'll be disappointed. She was quite sure you and Charlotte would hit it off." "Charlotte needs someone with more patience than me," Damien said diplomatically. Vivian's gaze lingered on Aaliyah's dress. "Well, we should circulate." "Lovely to meet you, Alicia." "Aaliyah," Damien corrected, a hint of steel in his voice. "Of course." Vivian smiled thinly and moved away, her husband following after a quick handshake. "That went well," Aaliyah said sarcastically once they were out of earshot. "Vivian treats everyone like that, even me. Don't take it personally." But as the evening progressed, Aaliyah noticed a pattern. The men, board members, investors, business partners, were politely curious about her, asking questions about her studies and work. The women, particularly those with eligible daughters or nieces, were decidedly cooler, some barely acknowledging her presence. "They're threatened," Damien explained when she mentioned it. "You're new, unknown, and with me. That makes you a target. I'm starting to feel like the main attraction at a zoo. Let's take a break." He led her out onto a terrace overlooking the hotel gardens. The night air was cool, a welcome relief from the stuffiness of the ballroom. "I'm sorry," he said once they were alone. "I should have warned you what it would be like." "It's fine. I can handle a few disapproving looks." "More than a few." He smiled ruefully. "The board has been pushing me to date someone more conventional, someone from their world, like Charlotte." Aaliyah couldn't keep the hint of jealousy from her voice. "Charlotte Lawson is a walking fashion accessory with the personality of a houseplant." Damien shook his head. "But yes, someone like her. Someone who wouldn't challenge the status quo." "And I do?" In the best possible way. He pulled her close, kissing her softly. You make me question everything I thought I knew about what matters. The sincerity in his eyes made her heart ache with a mixture of joy and fear. This was real. What they were building together was real, but so were the obstacles. Damien! A sharp voice interrupted. There you are! A tall, distinguished man stood in the terrace doorway, his expression disapproving. Behind him, Aaliyah could see several board members watching with undisguised interest. Father, Damien said, his posture stiffening almost imperceptibly, I didn't know you were coming tonight. Clearly, the older man's gaze swept over Aaliyah dismissively before returning to his son. The Wang delegation is waiting to meet you. They've flown in specifically for this event. I'll be right there. Damien turned to Aaliyah. I'm sorry, I need to handle this. Business opportunity we've been working on for months. Will you be okay for a few minutes? Of course. She smiled reassuringly. Go do your CEO thing. After Damien followed his father inside, Aaliyah remained on the terrace, watching the garden lights below and trying to gather her thoughts. She'd known tonight would be challenging, but the reality was even more uncomfortable than she'd anticipated. The stares, the whispers, the barely concealed judgment. It all confirmed her worst fears about crossing into Damien's world. So, you're Damien's latest distraction. Aaliyah turned to find a stunning woman in a red dress watching her from the doorway. She recognized her immediately from business magazines. Victoria Chen, Horizon's chief marketing officer. Victoria Chen approached Aaliyah with the smooth confidence of someone accustomed to intimidating others. Her red dress clung to a perfect figure, and diamonds glittered at her throat and ears. I don't believe we've been introduced, she said, extending a manicured hand. Victoria Chen, chief marketing officer at Horizon. Aaliyah Trent. Aaliyah shook her hand, determined not to be intimidated despite the knot forming in her stomach. So tell me, Aaliyah Trent, how exactly did you manage to capture our elusive CEO's attention? He's been remarkably resistant to relationships in the past. I backed into his car in a parking lot, Aaliyah said simply. Victoria laughed, a sound that held no real warmth. How charmingly random. And now here you are, at one of the most prestigious events of the season. Here I am, Aaliyah agreed, keeping her expression neutral. Victoria swirled her champagne, studying Aaliyah over the rim of her glass. You should know that Damien has a pattern. He finds women who intrigue him, pursues them intensely, then moves on when the novelty wears off. Is that so? Aaliyah kept her voice steady despite the painful stab of doubt. Oh yes, there was the artist last year. Very talented, very earnest. Before that, the environmental activist. Each one believed they were different. Victoria's smile was sharp as a blade. They weren't. Aaliyah refused to show how deeply the words cut. Thank you for the warning. Just looking out for a fellow woman. Victoria's tone made it clear she was doing nothing of the sort. Damien's board is pushing for stability, consistency, someone who understands his world and won't embarrass the company. Someone like you, perhaps? Aaliyah couldn't resist asking. Victoria's smile tightened. Damien and I have a complex history, but yes, someone who understands the responsibilities that come with his position. Before Aaliyah could respond, Damien returned to the terrace. His expression darkened when he saw Victoria. Victoria, he acknowledged coolly. I see you've met Aaliyah. We were having a lovely chat. Victoria smiled. Just girl talk. Somehow I doubt that. Damien's hand found Aaliyah's, squeezing gently. The Wang delegation is asking for you, Victoria. Something about the Asian market campaign. Of course. Victoria nodded graciously. Lovely meeting you, Aaliyah. I'm sure we'll see each other again, while it lasts. She glided back inside, leaving a chill in her wake. What did she say to you? Damien asked immediately. Nothing important, Aaliyah lied, not wanting to create drama. Just making conversation. Victoria doesn't make conversation. She strategizes. His eyes searched hers. Are you okay? I'm fine. But she wasn't. Victoria's words had found their target, awakening doubts that Aaliyah had been trying to silence for weeks. Let's get out of here, Damien said suddenly. What? But the gala has served its purpose. I've greeted everyone I need to, signed the checks, shaken the hands. He pulled her closer. And now I want to be with you, just you, somewhere we can breathe. The sincerity in his eyes pushed back the shadows Victoria had cast. Okay. Damien led her through a side exit, avoiding the crowds and cameras at the front. His car was waiting in a private area of the parking garage, keys already with the valet. Where are we going? Aaliyah asked as they drove away from the hotel. You'll see. 20 minutes later, they pulled into a small all-night diner on the edge of the city. The place was nearly empty, just a few truckers at the counter and a tired-looking waitress refilling coffee cups. "Best pancakes in the city," Damien said, holding the door for her. "And no one here cares who we are." They slid into a worn vinyl booth, Aaliyah feeling absurdly overdressed in her evening gown. "Sorry about tonight," Damien said after they'd ordered coffee. "I wanted to show you my world, but I forgot how ugly it can be." It wasn't all bad. Aaliyah fiddled with a paper napkin. "Just eye-opening." "Victoria got to you, didn't she?" Aaliyah hesitated, then nodded. "She mentioned your pattern with women, the artist, the activist." Damien sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I dated Mira for 3 months last year. She's a sculptor. It ended because she wanted me to move to Paris with her. Before that, Emma, not my sister, different Emma, was an environmental lawyer. We dated for about 6 months until she took a job in Seattle." "And what about Victoria?" "Victoria and I went out a few times 3 years ago. She's brilliant at her job, but she sees relationships as business mergers. She wanted a power couple arrangement, not a connection. She seemed to think you two had a complex history. The only complexity was me ending things and her refusing to accept it." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "None of those relationships were like this, Aaliyah. None of them ever came close." "How can you be sure?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. "How do you know I'm not just this year's novelty?" Pain flashed across his face. "Is that what you think?" "I don't know what to think," she admitted. "Your world is so different from mine. Those people tonight, they looked at me like I was an intruder. And maybe they're right." "They're not right." His voice was fierce. "Those people base everything on money and status. They can't understand what we have because they've never experienced it." "And what do we have, Damien?" "Something real." His eyes held hers. "Something I've never felt before. You challenge me, Aaliyah. You see past the CEO to the person underneath. You make me want to be better." The waitress brought their coffee, along with plates of pancakes they'd ordered almost as an afterthought. Neither seemed particularly interested in eating now. "I'm scared," Aaliyah confessed. "Tonight showed me how different our worlds are. You belong there, with those people. I tolerate those people because of business. I belong with you. For how long, though? Until the board pressures you enough? Until someone more suitable comes along?" "That's not going to happen." His grip on her hand tightened. "I love you, Aaliyah." The words hung in the air between them, unexpected and overwhelming. Aaliyah stared at him, heart racing. "You don't have to say it back," Damien continued quickly. "I know it's fast, but I needed you to know. This isn't temporary for me. It's not a phase or a novelty. I love you." Tears welled in Aaliyah's eyes. Part of her wanted to say it back immediately, because she did love him, had been falling for him since that day in the parking lot. But another part was terrified of believing in something that seemed too good to be true. "I need time," she whispered. "You have it." He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "All the time you need." They ate their pancakes in a silence that was part comfortable, part charged with unspoken emotions. When they finished, Damien drove her home, walking her to her apartment door. "Thank you for coming tonight," he said softly. "I know it wasn't easy." "It was educational." She attempted a smile. "Aaliyah," he hesitated, then cupped her face in his hands. "Don't let them get to you. What we have is real." His kiss was tender, almost pleading. She returned it, trying to convey through touch what she couldn't yet say in words. "Good night, Damien." "Good night, Aaliyah." She watched him walk away, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. He loved her. Damien Cross loved her. It should have been the happiest moment of her life. Instead, she felt more uncertain than ever. The following days were a blur of activity. Aaliyah threw herself into her work and studies, trying to process her complicated feelings about Damien's declaration and the eye-opening experience at the gala. He gave her the space she'd asked for, texting rather than calling, not pushing for meetings. "It's Wednesday and you haven't seen him since Saturday," Tasha pointed out during their lunch break at school. "That's the longest you've gone in weeks." "I need to think." "About what?" "The man told you he loves you, Aaliyah." "It's complicated." "Only because you're making it complicated." Tasha stole a fry from Aaliyah's plate. "You love him too. I can see it all over your face." "Even if I do," "No if about it. It doesn't change the reality of our situation. You should have seen those people at the gala, Tash. The way they looked at me, like I was some curiosity Damien had dragged in off the street." "So what? Are you dating those people or Damien?" "It's not that simple. His whole life is connected to them. The board has influence over his company. His father clearly disapproves. Victoria Chen is apparently waiting in the wings for me to fail. And none of that matters if he loves you and you love him. Aaliyah sighed. I wish I had your confidence. Look, I get it. Tasha's voice softened. After what happened with Michael, you're scared to trust again. But Damien isn't Michael. I know that. Do you? Because it sounds like you're looking for reasons this won't work instead of reasons it will. Aaliyah couldn't deny it. After her last relationship ended painfully, Michael had cheated with someone from his own wealthy background, claiming Aaliyah wouldn't fit in his future. She'd protected her heart carefully. Damien had somehow slipped past those defenses, and it terrified her. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. Thinking of you, no pressure. Just wanted you to know. Text him back, Tasha urged, seeing her smile at the message. Don't let fear win, Aaliyah. After lunch, Aaliyah found a quiet corner of the campus and called Damien. He answered on the first ring. Aaliyah, hi. Hi. She took a deep breath. Can we meet tonight? I think we should talk. Of course. My place or yours? Neutral territory. The library cafe at 7. I'll be there. The hours dragged until their meeting. Aaliyah rehearsed what she wanted to say, how to explain her fears without pushing him away. By the time she arrived at the cafe, her nerves were strung tight. Damien was already there, waiting at their usual table with 2 drinks, her chai latte and his black coffee. He looked tired, she noticed, with shadows under his eyes and tension in his shoulders. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Hey, yourself. His smile was cautious. How are you? Confused, scared, a little overwhelmed. She wrapped her hands around the warm mug. You? Missing you. The simple honesty in his voice made her heart ache. And worried I scared you off by saying too much too soon. You didn't scare me by saying it. You scared me because I wanted to say it back. His eyes widened. Wanted to. Want to, she corrected. But I'm terrified, Damien, of what it means, of what comes next, of all the reasons this might not work. Tell me what you're afraid of. Exactly. Aaliyah took a deep breath. I'm afraid of falling completely in love with you, and then losing you because our worlds are too different. I'm afraid of the pressure your board and family will put on you to find someone more suitable. I'm afraid of being a temporary detour in your life before you return to the path everyone expects you to take. Damien listened intently, his expression serious. When she finished, he reached across the table, taking both her hands in his. Those are all valid fears, he acknowledged. I can't promise there won't be pressure or disapproval. I can't pretend our backgrounds aren't different. But I can promise you this. You are not temporary to me, Aaliyah. You're not a detour or a phase or a rebellion. How can you be so sure? Because I've never felt this way before. Because the thought of my life without you in it feels wrong in a way I can't even describe. His thumbs traced circles on her palms. I love you. Not despite our differences, but including them. Because of who you are. All of who you are. Tears pricked at Aaliyah's eyes. I love you too, she whispered. That's what scares me most. How much I love you already. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Say it again. I love you, Damien. He leaned across the table, kissing her softly. Was that so hard? Terrifying, she admitted with a watery laugh. Worth it, though. Yes, and it was. The relief of finally saying the words, of acknowledging what had been growing between them for weeks, was overwhelming. They stayed at the cafe until closing, talking about their fears and hopes, making plans for the weekend, rediscovering the easy connection that had drawn them together from the start. When they finally left, Damien walked her to her car. Stay with me tonight, he said, his eyes dark with desire and something deeper. This time, Aaliyah didn't hesitate. Yes. Morning light filtered through the windows of Damien's hillside home, casting golden patterns across the rumpled sheets. Aaliyah stirred, feeling the warmth of Damien's body curled around hers, his arm heavy across her waist. For a moment, she simply enjoyed the sensation, the rightness of waking up beside him. Morning, he murmured against her hair, his voice rough with sleep. Morning. She turned in his arms to face him. You're supposed to be at work. I'm the boss. I can be late. He kissed her softly, especially for a good reason. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Damien ignored it, more interested in trailing kisses down Aaliyah's neck, but when it buzzed again and then a third time in quick succession, he sighed. Hold that thought, he said, reaching for the device. Aaliyah watched his expression darken as he read the messages. What is it? Board meeting. He sat up, running a hand through his tousled hair. Apparently it can't wait. Go, she urged. I'll be fine. I'll send a car for you. He was already moving, heading for the shower. Unless you want to come with me, I can drop you at school. I have clinic work this morning anyway. She stretched, enjoying the luxurious feel of his sheets. The car is fine. An hour later, showered and dressed, they stood in his driveway waiting for her car to arrive. Damien seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly. Is everything okay? Aaliyah asked. You seem worried. Just bored politics. He attempted a reassuring smile. Nothing new, but she sensed there was more he wasn't saying. Before she could press further, a sleek black sedan pulled up. I'll call you later, Damien promised, kissing her goodbye. Dinner tonight? Sure. Text me when you're done. As the car drove her back to her apartment, Aaliyah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Damien's sudden tension, the emergency board meeting, it felt ominous. Her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her blood ran cold. Attached was a photo from the gala, Damien and Aaliyah on the terrace locked in an embrace. The caption read, Horizon CEO's secret romance with clinic worker. Below it was a message. This hits online gossip sites in an hour. Thought you should know. V. Victoria Chen. It had to be. Aaliyah's hands shook as she called Damien. It went straight to voicemail. Damien, it's me. Victoria Chen just sent me something you need to see. Call me as soon as you can. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of anxiety. Aaliyah went through the motions at the clinic, checking her phone obsessively, but Damien didn't call. By lunchtime, the story had indeed hit the gossip sites, complete with photos and speculation about her background. Aaliyah, Dr. Patel appeared at her desk, concern etched on her face. Are you all right? You seem distracted today. I'm sorry. It's just... Aaliyah hesitated, then turned her phone to show the older woman the headline. Ah, Dr. Patel's expression softened with understanding. The price of dating someone in the public eye. I don't know what to do. Have you spoken with Damien? He's in meetings. Not answering his phone. Dr. Patel patted her shoulder gently. These stories burn bright and fade quickly. Try not to let it upset you too much. But as the day wore on, the story spread. More detailed articles appeared, digging into Aaliyah's background, her jobs, even her father's struggles after her mother's death. By mid-afternoon, reporters had somehow found the restaurant where she worked and were asking questions about her. Finally, as she was leaving the clinic, her phone rang. Damien's name flashed on the screen. Where have you been? She asked immediately. Have you seen the articles? I've been in meetings all day, and yes, I've seen them. His voice was tight with controlled anger. Are you okay? Not really. They're digging into my life, Damien, my family. How did they find all this so quickly? That's what I'd like to know. The edge in his tone sharpened. I'm handling it, Aaliyah. I've got the PR team working on damage control. Damage control? The phrase stung. Is that what I am now? Damage? That's not what I meant. He sounded tired. The story is damage, not you. Never you. Victoria Chen sent me the story before it broke. She wanted me to see it coming. A beat of silence. Victoria did what? She texted me this morning. From an unknown number. But it had to be her. I'll deal with Victoria. The cold determination in his voice was almost frightening. Look, I need to finish here, but I'll come by your place tonight. Around 8? Okay. And Aaliyah? I love you. Remember that. After they hung up, Aaliyah headed home keeping her head down, paranoid that someone might recognize her from the photos. Her phone buzzed constantly with texts from Tasha and even her brother Jason, who'd somehow seen the articles from his college campus across the state. She was so distracted that she almost bumped into the man waiting outside her apartment building. Miss Trent. He straightened from where he'd been leaning against a luxury car. I'm Lawrence Cross, Damien's father. Aaliyah froze, taking in the tall, distinguished man she'd briefly seen at the gala. Up close, his resemblance to Damien was more pronounced, though his eyes lacked the warmth his son's held. Mr. Cross, she acknowledged cautiously. What can I do for you? I think we should talk. He gestured to his car. Perhaps somewhere more private than the sidewalk? Every instinct told Aaliyah to refuse, but curiosity won out. There's a coffee shop around the corner. Lawrence nodded, falling into step beside her. They walked in silence to the small, nearly empty cafe. Once seated with their drinks, black coffee for him, tea for her, he studied her with calculating eyes. You've caused quite a stir, Miss Trent. I didn't ask for any of this attention, and yet here we are. He stirred his coffee methodically. My son is in a delicate position. Horizon is preparing to go public next quarter. The company valuation depends heavily on investor confidence in stable leadership. I don't see how that relates to me. Don't you? The board was already concerned about Damien's focus lately. Now these tabloid stories, he shook his head. It creates an image problem. An image problem, Aaliyah repeated flatly. Because I'm not wealthy or connected enough to date your son? Let's be frank, you come from different worlds. Damien has responsibilities. To the company, to the shareholders, to the family legacy. His choices affect thousands of people who depend on Horizon for their livelihoods. And you think I'm a threat to that? I think you're a distraction at a critical time. Lawrence's gaze was direct, unapologetic. Damien has always had a rebellious streak, a desire to prove he's different from me. I believe that's what this relationship represents. The words cut deep, echoing Aaliyah's own fears. With all due respect, Mr. Cross, you don't know anything about our relationship. I know my son, this pattern isn't new. Finding someone unexpected, someone who represents a break from expectations, it never lasts. Victoria's warnings echoed in Aaliyah's mind, reinforced now by Damien's own father. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. I want what's best for my son, for his future, for the company he's built. Lawrence reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew an envelope, sliding it across the table. Inside is a check for $1 million. Aaliyah stared at the envelope as if it might bite. Excuse me? Walk away now, before this goes any further. Give Damien the space to refocus on what matters. The money will help you finish your degree, start your trauma center, take care of your family. Everyone wins. Rage boiled up inside her, hot and fierce. You think you can buy me off? That I'm with your son for what he can give me? I think everyone has a price, Miss Trent, and I think you're smart enough to recognize an opportunity when it's presented. Aaliyah stood abruptly, knocking her chair back. I love your son, Mr. Cross. Not his money, not his position, him. And he loves me. That's something your millions can't buy or break. Lawrence remained seated, unmoved by her outburst. Love fades, especially when reality intrudes. And reality is intruding quite forcefully at the moment, wouldn't you say? The press will continue digging. Every detail of your life will be exposed. Your father's drinking after your mother's death, your brother's scholarship status, the financial struggles you've hidden so carefully. How do you know all that? Aaliyah whispered, fear replacing anger. I make it my business to know everything that might affect my family or our company. He tapped the envelope. The offer stands. Think about it. Not just for your sake, but for Damien's. Aaliyah left the envelope on the table. Keep your money, Mr. Cross, and stay out of our lives. She walked out of the cafe with her head high, but inside she was trembling. How had things spiraled so quickly? Yesterday she'd finally admitted her love for Damien. Today she was being offered money to leave him, while their relationship was splashed across gossip sites. Back in her apartment she paced anxiously, waiting for 8 o'clock when Damien would arrive. But at 7 her phone rang. Damien again. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I can't make it tonight. The board has called an emergency session about the PR situation. Your father offered me $1 million to leave you, Aaliyah blurted out. Silence. Then, he did what? She explained the encounter, Damien's fury growing palpable even through the phone. I'll handle this, he said when she finished. He had no right. None. He seems to think he's protecting you. And Horizon. He's protecting himself and his vision of what my life should be. Damien's voice softened. You didn't take it, did you? Of course not. How can you even ask that? I'm sorry, This day has been insane. The board is concerned about the publicity, the timing with the IPO coming up. Victoria's been suspended pending an investigation into her role in leaking the story. Suspended? Won't that make things worse? It sends a message. No one messes with the people I care about. His voice hardened again. That includes my father. Damien, don't do anything rash. This is your company, your family. You're my family now too, Aaliyah. You're my priority. The words should have warmed her, but instead they filled her with unease. I don't want to be the reason you fight with your board or your father. I don't want to damage what you've built. You're not. They are, with their outdated notions and prejudices. He sighed heavily. I need to go into this meeting, but tomorrow, no matter what, I'm coming to see you. We'll figure this out together. Okay, I love you. I love you too, more than anything. After they hung up, Aaliyah sat on her couch, staring at nothing. Lawrence's words kept replaying in her mind, along with Victoria's warnings and the concerned looks from board members at the gala. What if they were right? What if she was just a distraction that would ultimately hurt Damien's career, his company, his legacy? She loved him, Loved him enough to wonder if loving him meant letting him go. Damien didn't come the next day, or the day after. He called, explaining that the board situation had escalated, that his father was threatening to use his voting shares to force a leadership change if Damien didn't get his personal life under control. "It's blackmail," he fumed during one late-night call, "using the company to control my private choices." "Maybe you should give them what they want," Aaliyah suggested quietly. "Just until after the IPO." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should take a step back, not see each other for a while, let things calm down." "Absolutely not." His voice was firm. "I'm not letting them dictate who I can love. But your company is important, yes, but not more important than you, not more important than us." The conviction in his voice brought tears to her eyes. "I don't want to be the reason you lose something you've worked so hard to build. Listen to me, Aaliyah. They can threaten all they want. In the end, they need me more than I need them. The IPO can't happen without me as the face of the company. They know that. Your father seems willing to risk it. My father is bluffing. He'd never tank the company's value just to control my love life." Damien paused. "Would he?" The doubt in his voice was new and troubling. "I don't know. He seemed pretty determined when we spoke." "I'll handle him. I'll handle all of it." Damien sounded tired but resolute. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't give up on us. Not yet. No matter what happens in the next few days." "I promise," she whispered, though her heart was heavy with doubt. The next morning, Aaliyah arrived at the clinic to find Dr. Patel waiting for her with a grave expression. "You've seen the news?" the older woman asked. "No, what news?" Dr. Patel handed her a tablet open to a financial news site. The headline made Aaliyah's stomach drop. "Horizon Board votes to delay IPO amid leadership concerns." The article detailed how the board had voted to postpone the company's public offering, citing internal restructuring and strategic realignment. But the real story, according to sources close to the company, was Damien Cross's increasingly erratic personal decisions and distraction from core business priorities. Aaliyah's hands shook as she handed back the tablet. "This is my fault." "Nonsense," Dr. Patel said firmly. "Corporate politics are never so simple. There are always multiple factors at play." But Aaliyah knew better. This was exactly what Lawrence Cross had warned about. Damien's relationship with her affecting his company, his future, everything he'd worked for. She tried calling Damien, but it went straight to voicemail. Texts went unanswered. As the day progressed, more news broke. Horizon's stock had dropped on the IPO delay announcement. The board was meeting in continuous session. Rumors of leadership changes swirled. By evening, Aaliyah was frantic with worry. She'd called Damien a dozen times with no response. Finally, just as she was considering going to his home, her phone rang. "Damien, what's happening? Are you okay?" "I've been better." His voice was rough, exhausted. "It's been a day. I saw the news about the IPO delay. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault." He sounded adamant about this. "It's my father and the old guard on the board. They think they can force my hand." "Can they?" A heavy sigh. "They're trying. They've called for a confidence vote tomorrow. If I lose, I'll be removed as CEO." Aaliyah felt the blood drain from her face. "They can do that? Remove you from your own company?" "With enough votes, yes. My father's been rallying support behind the scenes." "Because of me?" It wasn't a question. "No, Aaliyah. Because of their own outdated ideas about who I should be and what my life should look like. They've been pushing back on my vision for years." This is just their excuse. But Aaliyah wasn't convinced. The timing was too perfect, the escalation too rapid after their relationship became public. "What are you going to do?" "Fight," Damien said simply. "I've spent the day calling investors, reminding them who built this company, who drove the innovations they've profited from. I have allies too. And if you lose, then I start over, build something new, something that's truly mine, with no strings attached." "Just like that? You'd walk away from Horizon? For the right reasons, yes." His voice softened. "For you, yes." The weight of those words crushed Aaliyah's heart. This was exactly what she'd feared, becoming the reason Damien lost everything he'd worked for. "I need to see you," she said suddenly. "Tonight, can you come over? I'm in back-to-back calls until midnight, preparing for tomorrow's vote, but I'll come first thing in the morning, I promise." "Okay, first thing." "Aaliyah, I love you. Whatever happens tomorrow, that doesn't change." "I love you too," she whispered, knowing what she had to do. After hanging up, she sat in silence for a long moment. Then she called Tasha. "I need your help," she said, when her friend answered, "and I need you not to argue with me about what I'm going to do." Dawn was breaking when Aaliyah finished packing her car. Just a suitcase, a box of books, her laptop, the bare essentials. Tasha stood beside her, concern etched on her face. "You don't have to do this," her friend said for the dozenth time. "There has to be another way." "There isn't." Aaliyah hugged her tightly. "His whole future is at stake, Tash. Everything he's built. I can't be the reason he loses it all. So you're just leaving without saying goodbye?" "I left him a letter," Aaliyah's voice caught. "If I see him, I'll never be able to go through with it." "Where will you go?" "My brother's for now. He has a spare couch in his dorm apartment. I've already arranged to transfer my credits to the university there." She'd been up all night making calls, pulling strings, setting things in motion. "Dr. Patel understands. She's writing me a recommendation for a clinic position there. And you think disappearing will solve everything? That Damien won't come looking for you? The letter explains why I'm doing this. He'll understand eventually that it's for the best." Tasha shook her head, tears in her eyes. "This is wrong, Aaliyah. Love shouldn't have to make these kinds of sacrifices. Sometimes love is about knowing when to walk away." Aaliyah blinked back her own tears. "His board meets at 9. The vote is at 10. By then I need to be gone. What about your stuff, your apartment?" "I've paid through the month. You have a key. Can you deal with whatever's left after I'm gone?" Aaliyah asked, wiping away a stray tear. "Of course," Tasha promised, though her disapproval was clear in her eyes. "But I still think you're making a huge mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." Aaliyah hugged her friend one last time. "I'll call you when I get to Jason's." "You better." Tasha squeezed her tightly. "And when Damien shows up at my door demanding to know where you are, because he will, what am I supposed to tell him?" Aaliyah pulled back, her expression serious. "Tell him I'm safe. Tell him I'm sorry. And tell him to live the life he was meant to live." With that, she climbed into her old car, the same one that had crashed into Damien's life all those weeks ago. As she drove away, she didn't look back, knowing if she did, her resolve might crumble. The sun was rising over the city as she hit the highway, casting long shadows across the road ahead. Her letter to Damien sat on her passenger seat, the envelope sealed with words she'd spent all night perfecting. She'd asked Tasha to deliver it to him when he came looking for her, and he would come looking, she knew that. It was why she had to be far away when he read it. The letter explained everything: her fear of being the reason he lost his company, her understanding that their worlds were too different, her belief that in time he would see this was for the best. She'd poured her heart into those pages, telling him how deeply she loved him, how meeting him had changed her life, how she would carry that change with her always. What she hadn't written was how it was breaking her heart to leave, how every mile that stretched between them felt like a physical pain, how she already missed him with an ache that seemed impossible to bear. Damien arrived at Aaliyah's apartment just after 7, carrying coffee and pastries. He'd been up all night preparing for the board meeting, rehearsing arguments, calling in favors, but none of that mattered now. All he wanted was to see Aaliyah, to draw strength from her presence before facing whatever came next. He knocked on her door. No answer. He knocked again, louder this time. "Aaliyah, it's me." Still nothing. Concern prickled at the back of his neck. He tried calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Strange. She never turned her phone off. A door opened across the hall. An elderly woman peered out curiously. "Looking for Aaliyah?" she asked. "She left about an hour ago. Packed up her car and everything." "Packed up?" Damien felt his stomach drop. "Did she say where she was going?" "No, dear. But that friend of hers was here. The pretty one with the braids." "Tasha." Damien scrolled through his contacts frantically. He'd met Aaliyah's best friend several times, had even saved her number in case of emergencies. This felt like an emergency. "Damien," Tasha answered on the first ring, her voice carefully neutral. "I figured you'd call." "Where is she?" he demanded, not bothering with pleasantries. "She asked me not to tell you." "Tasha, please, I need to find her." A sigh came through the phone. "She's gone, Damien. She left early this morning. And before you ask, no, I don't think you should follow her. She made her choice." "What choice?" "We were fine last night. We talked about facing the board together. She saw the news about the IPO delay, about the confidence vote." Tasha's voice softened slightly. "She doesn't want to be the reason you lose everything." "That's ridiculous. I'm not losing anything that matters." "She left you a letter. I was going to bring it by later, but since you're already there, I'm coming to get it now." Damien's voice left no room for argument. "What's your address?" 20 minutes later, he stood in Tasha's small apartment, staring at the envelope in his hands. His name was written on the front in Alia's neat handwriting. "Do you want me to leave?" Tasha asked, hovering awkwardly. "No." Damien tore open the envelope, his hands not quite steady. "But I might need your help after I read this." The letter was several pages long, filled with Alia's thoughts, her fears, her love for him, and ultimately, her goodbye. As he read, Damien's expression shifted from confusion to pain to something harder to define. "She thinks she's protecting me," he said finally, looking up at Tasha, "from losing my company, from choosing between my work and her, isn't she?" "No, that's not her choice to make. It's mine." Anger flashed in his eyes. "And I choose her. I've always chosen her." "Maybe she doesn't believe that's possible," Tasha suggested. "Your worlds are pretty different, Damien. That's just geography, just circumstance." He stood up, pacing the small living room. "The only world that matters is the one we create together." "That's very romantic, but reality isn't so simple. The board vote is happening in 2 hours, and I need to be there." Damien checked his watch. "But first, I need to know where Alia went." Tasha crossed her arms. "I promised her I wouldn't tell you, and I respect that. But Tasha, I love her. More than anything. More than Horizon, more than the money, more than all of it combined." His voice cracked slightly. "If she wants to end things, I'll accept that. But not like this. Not based on a misguided attempt to protect me from a choice I never asked her to make." Tasha studied him for a long moment, weighing his words. "Her brother Jason is at State University. She's staying with him while she transfers her credits there." "Thank you." Relief flooded Damien's face. "Don't make me regret telling you," Tasha warned. "She's been hurt before, you know, by someone else who couldn't choose her over his suitable life. I'm not that guy." Damien's expression hardened with determination. "And I'm about to prove it." The Horizon Technologies boardroom was silent as Damien walked in. 14 faces turned to watch him. 12 board members, his father, and the company lawyer. No one smiled. "Cutting it close, Damien," Lawrence Cross said coldly. "The vote is in 10 minutes. I'm aware of the schedule, Father." Damien's voice was calm as he took his seat at the head of the table. "Before we begin, I'd like to say a few words." Richard Lawson, the board chairman, nodded reluctantly. "Make it brief." Damien looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. These were people he'd worked with for years, who had profited enormously from his vision and hard work. Some were allies. Others, like his father, had their own agendas. 8 years ago, I founded Horizon Technologies with a simple mission: to create technology that makes people's lives better. He spoke clearly, confidently. Since then, we've revolutionized AI diagnostics in healthcare, transformed educational access in developing countries, and built tools that connect people across barriers of language and distance. He paused, letting his words sink in. "I've given everything to this company. My time, my energy, my youth. I've missed birthdays, weddings, funerals. I've worked nights and weekends. I've sacrificed personal relationships for the sake of Horizon's growth." His gaze fixed on his father. "And I've done it willingly, because I believed in what we were building." Lawrence shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. But recently something unexpected happened. A small smile touched Damien's lips. "I found someone who made me realize there's more to life than quarterly reports and stock valuations. Someone who challenged me to be not just a better CEO, but a better person." "Damien, we're not here to discuss your personal life," Richard interrupted. "Actually, that's exactly why we're here." Damien's voice hardened. "Because certain members of this board believe they have the right to dictate who I can love. They believe my value to this company is contingent on conforming to their narrow vision of an appropriate partner." Murmurs spread around the table. Some board members looked embarrassed, others defiant. "The confidence vote today isn't really about my leadership. It's about control." Damien placed a folder on the table. "Inside this folder is my formal resignation as CEO of Horizon Technologies, effective immediately." Gasps filled the room. Lawrence half rose from his chair. "What are you doing?" "Making a choice, Father. Something you taught me to do, though perhaps not in the way you intended." Damien stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "I've also instructed my legal team to begin the process of selling my controlling shares in the company." "You can't do that," Lawrence sputtered. "The shareholder agreement has a clause allowing sale in case of forced removal or resignation under duress." Damien nodded to the lawyer, who reluctantly confirmed this with a tight nod. "I believe today's vote constitutes duress, don't you?" The boardroom erupted in chaos. Board members argued amongst themselves, some demanding explanations, others pleading with Damien to reconsider. Through it all, Damien remained calm, his decision made. "You're throwing away everything we've built," Lawrence said, his voice tight with anger. "For what? Some girl you barely know?" "For the right to make my own choices," Damien corrected. "And for a woman I love, a woman who, ironically, left me this morning because she didn't want to be the reason I lost Horizon." He shook his head, a sad smile on his lips. "She didn't understand that some things are worth losing if keeping them costs you your soul." He walked to the door, pausing with his hand on the handle. "The vote is yours to hold or cancel. My resignation stands either way. Margaret has my letter of recommendation for Victoria Chen as interim CEO. She's the most qualified to lead during the transition." "Victoria?" Lawrence looked stunned. "After what she did?" "Victoria made a mistake, driven by emotions we've all felt at some point. But she's brilliant, dedicated, and knows this company better than anyone except me." Damien shrugged. "Besides, she's already apologized to the person who matters, Aaliyah." With that, he walked out, closing the door on the pandemonium behind him. For the first time in years, he felt completely free. Uncertain about the future, yes, but certain about what mattered most. Now he just had to find Aaliyah before she disappeared from his life for good. State University was a sprawling campus, intimidating in its size and complexity. Damien parked his car in a visitor lot, realizing he had no idea where to find Jason Trent's dormitory. The campus directory was unhelpful without a specific building name. Frustration mounting, he called Tasha again. "I need Jason's dorm information," he said without preamble. "Seriously? I already told you more than I should have." "Tasha, please, I'm at the university now. I don't have time to search every building." A pause, then a sigh. "Fine, but this is the last thing I'm telling you. After this, you're on your own." She gave him the building name and room number. "And Damien? The board meeting?" "Is over. I resigned." "You what?" "I resigned. Walked away. They wanted me to choose, so I did." He started walking toward the building Tasha had named. "I chose Aaliyah." Wow. For once, Tasha seemed speechless. "I didn't see that coming." Neither did they. Damien spotted the dormitory ahead. "I have to go. And Tasha, thank you." The student residence hall was buzzing with activity, young people coming and going, music blaring from open doors. Damien felt conspicuously out of place in his business suit as he navigated the hallways, following signs to the right floor. Room 412. He stood outside the door for a moment, gathering his thoughts, then knocked firmly. The door swung open to reveal a young man with Aaliyah's same warm brown eyes and questioning expression. "Jason Trent. Can I help you?" he asked. Then recognition dawned. "Wait, you're Damien Cross?" "Yes, I'm looking for your sister." Jason hesitated, clearly torn between loyalty to Aaliyah and the bizarreness of having a famous CEO at his door. "She's not here. Do you know where she went?" "Even if I did, I'm not sure I should tell you. She was pretty clear about wanting space." Damien ran a hand through his hair, frustration mounting. "Look, I understand protecting her, but there's been a misunderstanding. She left because she thought she was saving my company. I need to tell her that I resigned today, that I chose her." Jason's eyebrows shot up. "You resigned? From Horizon?" "Yes." "Damn." The younger man seemed impressed despite himself. "That's a big deal." "Not as big as losing Aaliyah." Damien's voice softened. "Please, Jason, I love your sister. I just want to talk to her." Something in Damien's expression must have convinced him. "She went to the library, said she needed to think. The main one, in the center of campus." "Thank you." The university's central library was a massive building with multiple floors and countless study nooks. Damien wandered through it, scanning faces, growing increasingly desperate as minutes ticked by. Finally, on the third floor, in a quiet corner by a window, he saw her. Aaliyah sat alone at a small table, books spread around her, but her gaze was fixed on the view outside. Even from a distance, he could see the sadness in her posture, the slight slump of her shoulders. For a moment, he simply looked at her, his heart aching with how much he'd missed her in just these few hours. Then he approached quietly, not wanting to startle her. "Aaliyah." She froze at the sound of his voice, then slowly turned. Shock, confusion, and something like hope flashed across her face before she schooled her expression. "Damien, what are you doing here? How did you find me?" "Tasha." Then Jason. He moved closer, stopping a few feet away. "You left without saying goodbye." "I left a letter. I read it." He pulled it from his pocket, the pages now creased from multiple readings. It was beautiful and completely wrong. Aaliyah looked away. It was the right thing to do, for both of us. No, it wasn't. Damien moved to sit across from her. You don't get to make that decision for me, Aaliyah. You don't get to decide what I can and can't risk for love. Your company. I resigned this morning. The words hung in the air between them. Aaliyah stared at him, disbelief written across her face. You what? I resigned as CEO of Horizon Technologies, effective immediately. He held her gaze steadily. The board wanted me to choose between the company and you, so I chose. Damien, no. Horror filled her eyes. You can't give up everything you've built. Your legacy is more than a company. He reached across the table, taking her hands in his. My legacy is how I live, the choices I make, the people I love. But Horizon is your life's work, and I'm proud of it. But if keeping it means losing you, the price is too high. His thumbs traced circles on her palms, just as they had that night in the cafe when she'd first told him she loved him. I can build another company. I can start over. But there's only one you, Aaliyah Trent. Tears welled in her eyes. I was trying to protect you. I know, and I love you for it. He smiled gently. But I don't need protection. I need you, by my side, challenging me, loving me, building a life with me. What about your father, the board? They'll survive. The company will survive. He shrugged. Victoria Chen will probably make a better CEO anyway. She's less idealistic than me. Victoria? Aaliyah couldn't hide her surprise. After what she did? She made a mistake. We all do. Damien's expression grew serious. Like you did this morning, running away instead of facing this together. Aaliyah looked down, guilt washing over her face. I thought I was doing what was best for you. Next time, ask me what's best for me. And trust that I know the answer. He lifted her chin gently, meeting her eyes. It's you, Aaliyah. It's always been you from the moment you crashed into my car and stood there, completely unafraid, telling me to either call insurance or let you go to work. A watery laugh escaped her. I was terrified that day. You didn't show it. You never do. His voice filled with admiration. You're the strongest person I know. Strong enough to walk away when you thought it was right. Now be strong enough to stay, to fight for us, whatever comes next. And what does come next? You've left your company. Your whole life is changing. Our lives, he corrected. And I don't know exactly what's next. Maybe a new company. Maybe something completely different. His eyes lit up with possibilities. Maybe I'll help fund that trauma recovery center you want to build. Be your first investor. Hope began to replace the doubt in Aaliyah's eyes. You're really serious about this. I've never been more serious about anything. Damien stood, pulling her to her feet with him. Aaliyah Trent, I love you. I choose you today and every day from now on. Will you choose me too? Will you stop running and face whatever comes next together? For answer, she stepped forward, wrapping her arms around his neck and kissing him deeply. Around them, students whistled and applauded, but neither noticed. They were lost in each other, in the promise of a future neither had imagined possible just weeks ago. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Aaliyah looked up at him with tears of joy in her eyes. I choose you, Damien Cross. Today and every day. He pulled her close again, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the rightness of her in his arms. No more running? No more running, she promised, though technically you ran after me. Damien laughed, the sound full and free. And I always will. 3 months later, Aaliyah stood in the empty storefront, sunlight streaming through the large windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The space was raw, unfinished, but she could see its potential. The reception area here, counseling rooms along that wall, a community gathering space in the back. What do you think? Damien asked, watching her expression closely. Is it what you imagined? It's perfect. She turned to him, eyes shining. I can see it all exactly how it could be. Then it's yours. He handed her a set of keys, the Trent Center for Trauma Recovery, opening date to be determined by its brilliant founder and director. Aaliyah's hand trembled as she took the keys. I still can't believe this is happening. Believe it. Damien wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder as they surveyed the space together. You've worked so hard for this. The business plan, the research, the grant applications, this is happening because of you. And you, she reminded him, leaning back against his chest. Your seed funding made all the difference. My small contribution to a vision that was always yours. He kissed her temple. I'm just the angel investor who was lucky enough to recognize genius when he saw it. So much had changed in 3 months. After leaving Horizon, Damien had taken time to breathe, to think, to reimagine his future. He'd started a small venture capital firm focused on community impact projects, using his expertise and connections to fund ideas that might never attract traditional investors. Aaliyah had finished her degree while developing the business plan for her trauma center, combining therapeutic services with community support, job training, and creative outlets for healing. When she'd presented it to Damien's new investment committee, they'd approved funding unanimously. Meanwhile, Horizon Technologies had continued under Victoria Chen's leadership. The IPO had finally happened, albeit at a lower valuation than originally projected. Damien retained some shares but no active role in the company. His relationship with his father remained strained, though Lawrence had made tentative overtures in recent weeks, perhaps finally realizing his son wasn't coming back to the fold. "When does the contractor start?" Aaliyah asked, already mentally arranging furniture in the empty space. "Next week. We should have the basic renovations done in 2 months, then the specialized work for the therapy rooms." Damien grinned. Just in time for our other project to reach completion. His hand drifted to her stomach where the slightest curve was just becoming visible. Their unexpected but joyously received news had come just weeks ago. "Perfect timing," Aaliyah agreed, covering his hand with hers. "Though I'm not sure which will be more challenging, launching a non-profit or becoming parents. We'll figure it out together." Damien turned her in his arms, looking down at her with love that still took her breath away. "That's what we do, remember? Face whatever comes next as a team." Aaliyah reached up, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. Who would have thought that a fender bender in a Whole Foods parking lot could lead to all this? Sometimes the best journeys start with a collision. Damien smiled, leaning down to kiss her softly. Sometimes you have to crash into someone's life to find exactly where you belong. As they stood in the sunlight, planning their future in this empty space full of possibilities, Aaliyah thought about all the fears that had nearly kept her from this moment. Fears of not belonging, of worlds too different to bridge, of not being enough. Those fears still whispered occasionally, but they grew fainter with each passing day, drowned out by the evidence of a love strong enough to overcome any obstacle. A love worth choosing, again and again. "I love you," she said simply, the words still powerful despite their daily use. "I love you too," Damien replied, his arms tightening around her. "Always will." Outside, the city continued its busy pace, people rushing to meetings and appointments, lives intersecting briefly before moving apart again. But inside this sunlit room, two people who once occupied completely different worlds stood wrapped in each other's arms, their lives permanently, wonderfully collided. Sometimes, Aaliyah thought, the most beautiful journeys begin with an accident, and sometimes what looks like a crash is really just the universe's way of redirecting you to exactly where you need to be. The end.